I'm not skimming because I don't enjoy the other writing. I'm skimming because I love the dialogue.
Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing an ARC reading vlog. Alright, before we get to anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, are you looking forward to these books? Do you want to read these books now? Let's talk about it. As usual, thank you so much to NetGalley as well as the publishers and authors for copies of these books in exchange for an honest review. I am so excited to get to both of them. Starting at the top, we have Well Actually by Mazey Eddings, and this one, I'm not gonna lie, a large majority of my want to read it comes from the author's Instagram posts about it. Everything she shares has me so intrigued. So we are following Eva, who is on a show kind of like Hot Ones, it seems, except across hot dogs. But she's really wanting to become a more serious journalist. And one night, unfortunately, she comes across a video from her influencer enemy, I guess we'll say, Riley Cooper. Riley and Ava dated in college and unfortunately ended up going quite badly. He ghosted her, but now is famous for trying to break down toxic masculinity and help men be more open with their feelings. Eva has some rather strong feelings of her own about this situation, so she ends up posting a little bit of a rant, and when it blows up in her face and at her job, her bosses tell her she is going to work along with Riley to turn this into a giant marketing ploy where Riley will be taking her out on a few dates to discuss how things go wrong, how they can go better, and also whether or not he can win her over again. But of course, fake dating doesn't stay fake for long. Like I said, so excited for this one. On the opposite side, I have My Best Friend's Earl by Bethany Bennett. This is a historical romance that has a really fun setup where we are following this woman whose best friend is getting married to an earl. But unfortunately, her best friend is actually in love with someone else, and this is more of a circumstance where their fathers set it up before they were even born, and now they're having to live it out. But the best friend is determined she will not marry this earl and enlist the help of Constance, who unfortunately starts to fall for the charming earl along the way. I have heard this has opposites attract energy. I really enjoyed the first book I read by this author last year that also had a little bit of opposites attract, and she writes pining so well. I'm really excited to see this one. This is actually the second, and I think it's called Blue Stocking Bookseller series. I do currently own the first one, I just haven't read it yet. So here's hoping both of these will be major successes. I will talk to y'all again when I've started into one of them. Hey y'all, so I started into my first book on my Kobo today actually, and I went with Well Actually by Mazey Eddings. I keep wanting to say Maisie Yates. I had to force myself to put this down so I could film an update because I'm loving this. 28% in and I am here for the ride. I am already foreseeing that I may end up buying this book because I'm having such a good time with it. Right from the get-go, we see that our main character, Ava, is not always the most likable chick, is definitely a contrarian to be a contrarian kind of thing. She is a shit stirrer, but at the same time, she's a lot of fun. Like, I'm already really enjoying having her perspective. She's got her problems. She's aware of them. Like, she is self-aware. She's just so entertaining. By this point, Ava and Riley have done this big interview and have officially set up this ongoing string of dates they're going to be doing that is partially for their jobs as being related to influencers and like social media and that sort of stuff. But you can also tell like Riley very much does want to change Ava's perspective of him. It's kind of funny that like Ava keeps reading him in this very nefarious way, and it's one of those where like I think how she is perceiving him says more about Ava than it really says about Riley. But at the same time, even without Riley's perspective, like I can definitely feel the difference in the Riley we're seeing now in comparison to the memories Ava has of him. Like it's very clear this man has grown up. He has probably gotten hit with some reality at some point or another, and his priorities have changed. His personality has shifted a little bit. Even still, he is such a golden retriever. He is so aggressively positive to the point where like it's actually kind of funny when Ava starts to be serious in a negative way, like isn't just griping at him or complaining towards him when like actually serious things happen. The way we see the switch in his character where like he is still so optimistic but at the same time a realist, really thought that was very well showcased. And just overall the characterization of both of them, loving the banter between both of them. I am enjoying this so much. I have so many highlights already because it's freaking hilarious. It is so funny. I was reading this morning in bed and Josh was still asleep and I was having to like actively muffle myself because I was worried I was gonna wake him up. I was laughing so hard. But so the setup that they have is that they're gonna go on a date. He is trying to showcase how much much he has changed, how all of this rhetoric he shares on the internet isn't just for clout. Like, he actually does believe in this, in pushing against toxic masculinity and misogyny and things such as that. But afterwards, they end up doing a debrief on his podcast, and Ava kind of walks through the date and will explain like what went well versus what didn't. I've just hit the point where they are about to start their first podcast episode. And I'm so excited. She gets to meet his roommates, and that was a whole fun interaction. It is very clear that Riley has talked about Ava to his roommates, and that his roommates are like desperate to see what's going on here, probably shipping them. It definitely feels like one of his roommates, Steve, is shipping them. So I'm really excited to see that. And it's kind of funny because even seeing the date they went on as adults now in comparison to when they're in college, again, we can see how Riley has changed, but like there's still ways he could improve and still things that he's inherently taking for granted. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Eddings like discusses that, not only with the romance, but just kind of as far as the societal discussions going on with the book, with the diving into toxic masculinity and internalized misogyny. Because honestly, it is very clear that Ava has a lot of internalized misogyny, and that's one of the things that like I'm already expecting it. I can already see the little bits of it being laid out. One way or another though, guys, I'm loving this. I'm loving it. It's so good. It is so much fun. I just need to film this because I want to keep reading this book.
Good morning, friends. So I have hit halfway into and y'all, I am loving this book. There actually have been a few pop culture references that I do think will slightly date this book. One of them was Pedro Pascal. It's kind of hard for me to be mad at her about that because it's Pedro Pascal, honestly. At this point now, Eva is very begrudgingly starting to like Riley, and she hates this, but at the same time she's really starting to see just how much he has changed, and they've had this great connection when it comes to queer identities and how they've both struggled with those. One moment I really enjoyed in how she connected with him was whenever Riley comes out to her and she finally kind of realizes he really has grown up a little bit, and how he's talking about this is so much more mature, and you can tell he's worked through some stuff. But not only that, we finally have a moment where Riley kind of confesses part of why their prior relationship imploded so hard and why he was such a boy, honestly, and just finally was a little bit emotionally vulnerable with her, which I really enjoyed that too. But now we're kind of having the opposite effect where Eva is stuck in a moment where she can't escape, and unfortunately is sort of forced to be emotionally vulnerable for views, and Riley is the one who like puts his foot down about it. And I love it because she keeps going back to the fact that this is all just for his podcast and his internet personality. Like, this is all a big shtick in order for the both of them to further their careers. But while Ava's boss is very much trying to push that narrative for her and for their company, Riley, who is more of a one-man band and would probably benefit more so, but he's the one who puts his foot down and lays a boundary. And just, oh, it was so good. I really liked it. It was so great. I'm loving the fact that even though Eva can be so mean to him, Riley never takes any of it to heart. It's very much that I love you, so I'm allowed to be mean to you. And there's even a moment where she has that thought. She's like, I'm the only one who can be this mean to him. I'm the only one who can say these things about him. Y'all aren't allowed to do this. It was great. It was great. As someone who has relationships like that, I really appreciate it. But I do think if you don't like that, if you don't enjoy that sort of teasing and that sort of banter, I do think Eva may come across as a little too mean for you. But on the opposite side, like, Riley never takes any of it seriously. Like, it's just rolls right off his back, and he's back with another quippy line in response, and I love it. It means the dialogue reads so quickly. I have to actively make myself read all of the stuff that connects the dialogue, because whenever I flip a page that's a lot of dialogue, I instinctively just want to read all of the dialogue as fast as possible, because I know that's where the really good stuff is that I am eating up and loving. The other writing is good too. I'm not skimming because I don't enjoy the other writing. I'm skimming because I love the dialogue. I needed to update now because if I'm being honest, I'm a little worried I will just binge through the rest of this book. I would not put it past myself. I will try not to do that so that I can give you one more update. If I don't, just know it's because I'm adoring this book.
Hey y'all, so I officially finished out Well Actually, and I loved this book. Like, this is one of those arcs where I finished it and no, I am going to need a physical copy of this. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna spend my own money on it. Like, I loved it that much. Definitely need to transfer my annotations because I had so many of them. It was so good. So good across the board. I think this is definitely one of those where like you have to be able to handle the main characters being a little mean to each other, but at no point did I ever feel like this crossed the line into bullying, because I think it's the fact that they always could volley back and forth. At no point did it feel like the other character was taking what they said too seriously. Actually, let me backtrack. It's not that they never took what the other person was saying seriously, but when they did, they talked things out about it. And so it felt really healthy, actually, which is funny to say, you know, when a lot of this book, it feels like they're teasing each other pretty mercilessly. I think across the board, Ava as a character was very, very well developed. I mean, she really did truly feel like middle child, child of divorce, like child in the perfect middle of step and half siblings. It's clear she has abandonment issues, but like all of that felt so true to the character we were watching. It's also very impressive that I simultaneously on Eva's side and wanted Riley to be taken down a peg after what he did to her when they were in college, but at the same time consistently cheering for Riley to make it through this hard shell, to finally reach Ava's marshmallow center and showcase that he's a good guy. He is actually going to be there for her. He has changed so much. I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. The only thing that I wish was going to be acknowledged that didn't happen, and even this, like, I don't necessarily say this is a negative because it's very there in between the lines. It's just not explicitly stated, was around Eva's internal misogyny and like her coping mechanisms. I think it would have been very interesting if we saw Riley, a man who has gone through a lot of growth to handle toxic masculinity and tries to educate other people about it, being the one to call Eva out on this and how unhealthy that is and where that came from. Because again, you can see it, you can read between the lines and understand it, but I just think having that all actually written out, having an interaction between these two characters, confronting that problem, like I think that would have been so good. I'm not going to knock this book for that, but I would have loved if it did have that as well. Also, guys, the spice. 4 chili peppers, delicious. If you got a praise kink, here you go. I also will say the plot around Eva's job, I really liked how it wrapped up, but at the same time, it's kind of in the same vein of like Harriet's situation in Happy Place by Emily Henry. It closes out in a way that isn't necessarily super realistic, but it feels good and it's kind of inspirational. And I mean, it probably wouldn't work out in the real world necessarily, but it's a rom-com. Like, this is wish fulfillment. But going off of that, the way that was used for the third act conflict, loved it. This was one of those situations that I wish we had more of, where it's an external conflict which does affect one of the characters and affects how they are viewing the relationship. But the thing that happened here was the other character did not allow them to shut down and push them out. It was great. It was pretty immediately discussed, and oh, it was so good. It was so good. Across the board, this book was amazing. I loved this. If you can't tell from all this ranting and raving, 5 freaking stars. I'm so excited for other people to read this and love it just as much as I did. Mazey Eddings, honestly, she probably should be an Insta-buy author for me at this point. Hey friends, so I've hit about 25% into my best friend's Earl, and I will say this is already very entertaining. It kind of has the same comedy of like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, except obviously it's not the main character who's falling for the Earl, it's the best friend. Constance is kind of an oddball. She has always attracted a lot of attention. She is terrible at being bored. She has a hard time keeping focused on things if she's not interested in them. So she is a very interesting lady, but she currently works as a bookseller at her family's business and is struggling with the fact that her parents may be retiring soon in order to go live closer to her perfect sister who already has a child. Constance is terrified because this is the only place she fits in. This is where she feels happiest, and I'm already really liking her. She's so much fun and just has a lot of spunk and personality. She's really entertaining to read from. Whereas on the opposite side, we have Oliver, who unfortunately his father was not a great dude, but his mom was absolutely wonderful, and so he really is trying to do his best to be a man that his mother would be proud of, while at the same time unfortunately having to fulfill promises his father made, namely by marrying Althea, who is basically his next door neighbor. Initially he was supposed to marry Althea's older sister, but she ended up running away and getting eloped. So Althea's kind of the default pick, but she already has feelings for somebody else. She's very unhappy about being this default pick, understandably so, but he is wanting to go through with this in order to reunite their lands, and he has this plan to do some work on this one portion that his neighbor currently owns, Althea's father currently owns, so that he hopefully can help out the town that is nearby and bring some money back to it. So I'm actually really liking Oliver as well so far, except he's like so straight-laced, he's so type A. He has a different vest for every day laid out, and naturally Althea is doing everything possible to make him hate her, which he doesn't really understand why. He gets that she's not happy about the circumstance, but he's like, I have to deal with it, why can't you just deal with it? Again, Althea enlists the help of Constance, and some of the ridiculous things they were already doing is so much fun, like shifting things around in his office, which honestly, that's so evil. She gets him a feral kitten to take care of. Those vests that he has set out for each day, she goes in and like steals them and then gets them redone in this terrible fabric and puts them back. It's been really entertaining in that way. But we've already seen a few interactions between Constance and Oliver, and they are so opposites. But when it comes to the cat, that's when they finally have some connection, and she kind of sees Oliver's walls come down. She sees him not this like clean, polished image that he constantly puts on because he's so taken off guard with the cat. And she starts to see some of the depth under that. She is also attracted to him, and we see Oliver also thinks Constance is very beautiful, which is where the pining comes in. Bethany Bennett does horny pining so well. It's delicious, guys. I'm 25% in and I'm already really loving this. I'm really intrigued on like what is going to be the timeline of things as to like when will the relationship with Althea fall apart. Constance, it's kind of funny because to Althea, she's giving her all these ideas as to how to make Oliver hate her, whereas on the opposite side to Oliver, she's like, why don't you just talk to her and actually listen to what she says, which is really entertaining because she's like playing both sides of the coin. Even though we can see she is already starting to have complicated feelings about Oliver herself. It's so good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say you can tell this is the second in a series because I believe Caro, Constance's cousin, is the main character in the first book. And so Caro, as well as her husband, are pretty prevalent here. Like they get mentioned a lot, but then we've also seen them already and kind of seeing the continuation of their happily ever after. So you can tell this is the second in a series, but I don't feel like I'm super lost not having read the first book yet. It's just, I mean, it's a romance series. Like I know they're gonna get together at the end of the first book. It's not a spoiler to see them as a couple here.
Hey y'all, so I have hit about 65% into my best friend's Earl, and I am continuing to really enjoy this. I will say I do like that we haven't stuck to this like how to lose a guy in 10 days energy for the entirety of the story. By this point, it has started to shift a little bit. Understanding of the two intendeds is starting to become a little bit more clear to both of them, and they're starting to understand like why the other person is doing what they're doing, what is the actual circumstances around this marriage. I'm really glad for that. But I think where this book is really shining for me is the same thing that Bethany Bennett did so well in the last book I read of hers. She does pining, especially horny pining, so well. I mean, by this point, I am starting to feel like maybe I should have read the first book in the series before starting into this one, because there is a lot of Caro and Dorian from the first book going on throughout this one, but also there are a few references to interactions between Constance and Oliver in the first book as well. And I think the one problem I'm really having with this book so far is that we haven't seen a lot of interacting between these two characters vocally. There's a lot of them seeing each other in group settings, and they are starting to develop feelings for each other, so you understand they're like paying more attention to them. They're picking up on the little subtle cues that the other is putting out. And I really like that because again, you can feel the care they have for them, the pining. Oh my God, like we are in YEARNTOWN, people. But I want more actual interactions. I want more dialogue going on just between the two of them. And we finally had a great scene where lets his guard down and he really tries to be open and honest with her and explain his background and why that has dictated the decisions that he makes and why he is using that for this whole situation with Althea and Althea's father. I really enjoyed that scene and I want more of those, honestly. There is so much yearning. There is so much pining going on.
one. Oliver is literally seconds away from writing like Mr. Constance Martin in his diary. But most of his holdups with the relationship really come down to his obligation of duty, and feels very true to his character, especially with the background we've learned about him. Whereas on the opposite side with Constance, it's more this struggle in her own identity and to accept herself, because she has always been the flighty one, she's the disappointment. And so she's really concerned about not only the fact that, you know, this man is engaged to her best friend, she is terrified of taking the jump in a relationship and then eventually finding herself bored and ending up breaking both of their hearts off of that. I wasn't sure earlier, but I'm definitely sure at this point, Constance is definitely supposed to be ADHD coded. I mean, obviously, given the time this book is written, I don't think that language is really available for the setting, but it's very clear in the actions, in some of her downfalls that she has, and the struggles she has in her everyday life, and also how she has learned to cope with those and how she tries to work with them. It really is clear to me she definitely has ADHD. And naturally, because of her ADHD and the issues that it has brought up in her life, she's self-conscious about this situation. She's self-conscious about her personality. But again, I like her so much. And again, I really love that Oliver is really starting to see her and understand her more the more he pays attention to her. And he is growing to care about her more and more, the way she has almost inadvertently started to bring him out of the shell, started to make him lose control a little bit. And he enjoys the fact that he is starting to loosen the reins in his life. And just, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Like I said, I wish we were seeing more actual like dialogue going on between these two, but what is there is really solid. Hey y'all, so I have officially finished out my best friend's Earl, and this was so good. I had the feeling that Constance was reading like she was ADHD coded, and once certain events happened, it was like so clear to me, yes, that is exactly what Bennett was doing. And then when I hit the acknowledgments and she actually discussed Constance's ADHD and how she wrote some of her own struggles into this character, I just really appreciated the representation of this character in a time period that I feel like we don't really see this sort of representation done very often. But I also say that having not read a lot of historical romances yet, I felt like the writing around Constance's ADHD seemed very authentic, but it never felt like it was so completely encapsulating that her character didn't have anything else to offer. It was also really fun that there was this ongoing list element. So at the start of every chapter, there would be a little list. Sometimes it could be one item, sometimes it would be multiples. Once in a while, they'd be crossed off, some weren't, but they were always items that Constance would write down on a list, because she mentions never remembering to do something if she doesn't have it on a to-do list, even if that happens to be eating something. There was also a point towards the end of the book during the third act conflict where she actually gets overstimulated and is just overwhelmed for a little bit and kind of has to put herself into her own little cocoon to calm herself down, feel like she's back inside her body, self-regulate again, and super relatable for anybody who has ADHD, I'm sure. On the opposite side with Oliver, I just loved this man so much across the board. I felt like he was such a phenomenal foil character to Constance in that he is so straight-laced, he's so type A, but he comes to appreciate the chaos Constance brings to his life and sees the beauty in that, and how Oliver appreciated the differences between the two of them. Oh, it was so sweet. I mean, this man was such a simp. The yearning in his perspective particular was so good. In all honesty, this book is not especially spicy, but it's just the amount of buildup to reach that point, the amount of tension between these two characters, that's just so, it's so delicious and keeps you invested, keeps you glued in, that I didn't even mind too much that these weren't incredibly spicy scenes, because like, I was just glad to finally have them. Literally, the only complaint I did have about this book is the same one I mentioned previously, which is I do wish we had had a few more direct interactions between these two characters before they really started to develop strong feelings. I mean, the timeline of this is a little fast for my taste, but I'm giving it a little bit of grace because of the time period, and then also how Constance tends to jump into things. But given the setup of the story with Oliver needing to marry Althea from the get-go, and how that kind of ups the timeline of his own relationship in order to figure out how to make this work with Althea, this was funny, spicy, cute as heck, swoony. Like, I just really enjoyed this. I cannot wait to go back and read the
first book in the series, but also I am fairly certain the third book in this series is going to go following Hattie, the third cousin, and then we see this really fun interaction with what's his name, Lord Bigsby, I think it was, and he's kind of like the gossip monger. I mean, he is the one who isn't rich in money, but he is rich in other people's secrets, and I feel like those are going to be the two main characters in the next book, and I am so here for that. In the end, this one came out to about 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, so fun. Absolutely recommend this author across the board. Everything I have read from her now, I love. And on that note, that is officially it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If we made it all the way to the end of this video, let's do a hot dog emoji in the comments for Well Actually. And once again, thank you so much to the publishers and authors for copies of these books, as well as to NetGalley. Shout out to them because y'all gave me some new favorites with this one. I have links to all my socials, as well as a few ways you can support me, including a Patreon down in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!